If you are the one, when you are traveling with a partner, that is almost fully dependent on your partner for all of the outside stuff, then pay close attention, because you are in a vulnerable situation if your partner becomes incapacitated. We got sick with COVID right after we got home. Hi everyone, I'm Amber. Paul is back in our bed sick. I'm here in the bunk area. But today we wanted to share with you some things that we've learned while being sick and full-time traveling. Yes, we're home, but we're in 1,000 trails, which we have a limited time to be here. And so we do consider ourselves still traveling. We're in that 3-week booked time, and then we have to move on. But we wanted to share some things that you may want to consider if you're thinking of full-time traveling, or if you already are full-time traveling. So if you've watched our previous videos, then you know how excited we have been to get back to our hometown, not only to spend time with our friends, grandchildren, our family, and to just, we had so many fun things planned, but also to take care of necessary things before traveling back out, like doctor's appointments, trips to storage unit, things like that. So we had a lot on our schedule for the entire 3 weeks that we were here, and then we got COVID. So when we first got here, we were both feeling fine. The only thing we were thinking about is how excited we were to finally be here. And we set up camp, and we ordered firewood, and just did the basic stuff when you get in here in the afternoon of just setting out the awning. You know, we've showed you how we do our outside video before. We had the fire pit all ready to go for friends to come over, and it was all good. We went to bed with lots of exciting plans floating around in our head for the next day. So Paul the next day developed a cough and then fever by that evening. We took his temperature. He did have a temperature, and right away I thought, oh no. Fortunately, I had ordered via Amazon some COVID at-home testing kits, and the reason that I had ordered those is because I wanted to have some with us when we started our travels, because it is difficult to find them when you need them in the stores. I've never seen them available in the stores. They've always been sold out. So I wanted to make sure that I had some with us so that we could be safe when traveling, and they had just come in that day, if you can believe it. It just really worked out. So Paul took a COVID test that night, and it came out negative. He had fever, and his cough was getting worse. By the next morning, he still had fever despite taking medicine, and his cough was even worse. And at this point, he didn't want to get out of bed. He was really feeling terrible. And so I did another COVID test on him, and that one came out positive. So that morning, I also woke up with a sore throat and just a little bit of a tickle in my throat, like I was maybe going to start with a cough. So I took a COVID test, and it came out negative. So I moved back to the bunk area, and he stayed in our bedroom area so he could toss and turn and have a lot of pillows and just be comfortable. My daughter, right away, who lives about an hour from where we're at right now, was so generous, and she went and bought a whole bunch of groceries for us, and we just realized how fortunate we were that we actually got COVID and got this sick while we were at home with people that could actually help us. About 4 days from the point that Paul tested negative, he was not doing any better, and in fact was doing worse. He was getting really short of breath just trying to walk to the bathroom, and so I talked to his sister, and she said, you need to take him in. So I called urgent care, and you have to schedule an appointment with this urgent care, but I knew that if we went to the ER, they're so crowded that he wouldn't be able to sit, and he would end up getting mad and leaving. And so I scheduled an appointment at this urgent care, and we were able to get in the next day. So they were able to prescribe him 4 medications to help get him through this. Thank goodness, because I was really worried that they were going to have to admit him if he got any worse, just because he was having a hard time breathing. And by the way, for those of you who are wondering, Paul and I have had our COVID vaccinations. We were thinking when he got it that it was going to be really light and to get over with really fast, but his symptoms, they've been pretty bad. I want to back up now, and I talked with Paul about this. He can't be on camera because if he talks too much, and you might hear him in the background coughing, but if he talks too much, then it makes him cough more. The biggest thing that I got out of this is this, and this is mainly going to be for you ladies. I mean, it's just the way it is most of the time, but it could be for some of you guys as well. If you are the one, when you are traveling with a partner that is almost fully dependent on your partner for all of the outside stuff, then pay close attention, because you are in a vulnerable situation if your partner becomes incapacitated. When Paul and I started full-time traveling 5 months ago, the intent was always that I was going to do a lesson. I was going to write up instructions, which is how I learn things, with pictures and everything. It's just the way that I roll, on how to do every single little thing, how to drain the black tank, how to level the trailer, how to hook up the trailer, how to unhook the trailer, how to drive the dually. Okay, we're talking ground zero of where I need to start. I've never had to do it. And so I know that sounds awfully dependent of me, and it is, but if you full-time travel with a partner, you pretty much, each partner establishes kind of what their job is. And so if you are only doing your job and you're not learning their job, then you are dependent on them. And in a crisis or emergency situation, you're not going to know what to do, which puts you in even a worse situation. And this is the reason that I wanted to do this video today. So the first thing that happened is when we realized that Paul was getting worse, and that he was going to need some medical intervention, and we needed to get him to urgent care. We got in the truck. Of course, he had to drive, because I could drive. I know how to drive, but the dually, my comfort level is not there. And Paul wouldn't let me anyway, because he knows that I don't have enough experience driving it. And fortunately for us, he was able to drive. So that was the first vulnerability, not being able to drive the truck, number one. And this is, I'm just going to tell you, this is embarrassing for me to tell you, because it's such a unwise situation to be in. But this is exactly why I wanted to put this video out, because I don't want you to be in this position. So anyway, the first thing was not being able to drive the truck. So after we got back from urgent care, we knew that it was supposed to get down to freezing that night. And so before Paul could even go in the house and lay back down after the exertion of being up and all of that, we had to get the water line disconnected and drained, and make sure that the freshwater tank had enough water in it, because it was going to freeze that night. Have I ever done that? No. Now, this is something that I could definitely hop on YouTube and figure out in the moment. And I definitely could have, but Paul did it. He just did it. I don't know. He's used to that being his job, and he's stubborn. But anyway, he did it. He disconnected everything and then went in bed and landed in bed. By that time, he had some fever again. And anyway, we doused him with all of his medications and just prayed that the next morning he would feel better. So we both had COVID, and I wasn't able to go anywhere. You know, we needed more cough drops. We were running out of the water that my daughter had given us. We were at home. And so my daughter again ran. She made us some soup. She ran and got us more water. She got us everything that we needed to get through another week, and dropped it back off again. But what do you do when you are not around friends and family that can do that for you. You know, when we first got here and first got sick, I was like, why? Why did this have to happen when we were at home? But now I'm like, thank you, God, sincerely, that this happened when we were at home. Because when we leave here, for instance, we're going to be 1 day, then 3 days, then 4 days, then 3 days, then 4 days at state parks while we're making our way over to Florida. What if we got sick then? I have been booking all of our reservations, and even I tried even to extend for 1 day one of our reservations, but everybody is booked solid. So what do you do if you get sick with something like COVID that's contagious, but you have to hook up your rig, you've got to go to the office, you've got to move when you're feeling that bad? What do you do? One other thing about the groceries. So if you don't have friends or family or anybody in the park, again, can bring you something when you're so sick and you can't get out and do it yourself. You can use those grocery delivery systems. Call the gate and let them know that they're coming in. Usually with programs like that, it's no contact. So you've already paid and they just literally drop it off on your doorstep. You could do that as well. So again, we are booked here for 3 weeks. So we still have a week and a half left here that we don't have to move anything. And I think that both Paul and I are on the upswing. For the first time today since he got COVID, Paul is doing better and actually was out of bed for several hours and actually wanted to eat something. So this is really good news. So what we did, since we have not been able to spend any time with friends and family, is we went ahead and booked a park that we're not a member of. We actually were able to find a park around here that had a spot for the entire month of February, and we're just going to stay. So you just got to make sure that you have savings so that if you're doing like we're doing and you're in the Thousand Trail system and you're not used to having to pay or anything month to month, make sure that you have savings for breakdowns and things like that for sure, but make sure that you have savings so that you could pay full price for a park that is around you if you needed to. Check with the office of whatever park you're at. Let them know what's going on, because in our experience with people in these RV parks, whether it's Thousand Trails or not, there are such friendly and giving and courteous people, and they will help you most likely. We have been the ones to help other people, and we have been on the receiving end of help from people in these parks. They're extremely generous, and the park staff will have contacts that can help you and put something in motion to get you where you need to be. So just keep that in mind. Another thing that has been a real challenge is if you have a dog. If you've got a dog, they've got to be taken out and walked. And when you are feeling really bad, the last thing you want to do is go outside and take your dog for a walk, who's bored, who's been in the house for too long and wants to get out. I would say to, call the office and see if there are dog walkers, but in the instance of COVID, nobody's going to want to be around you or your dog if your household has COVID, and that's the way it is. So fortunately, even though the first day when we pulled in and picked our spot that we came in, we weren't sick and didn't know we were going to be going through this, we actually got the perfect spot because we are backed up right against a grassy area and with a privacy fence. So there's nobody behind us. And there's a good distance of space between the people on either side of us. I can go in that little grassy area. There's nobody there. I'm not around anybody, and take him out. But man, I think about some of the spots that we've had in other RV parks where we're in the middle of the park and you have to walk, like in Mesa, you got to walk really far to get to the dog park. That would have been a nightmare. So this is just another thing that really worked out in our favor. But animals are another thing to consider when you're really sick, or if one of you are incapacitated or goes into the hospital. this is pretty much what I wanted to share with you, and what really both Paul and I wanted to. You know, we care a lot about our fellow Airstream travelers, and if you've never been through something before, you don't necessarily think about all the things that you are going to be faced with if you do find yourself in that situation. And so these are just a few things. There's a lot more. It could be way worse. Most of the stuff that we have learned here have to do with me being a liability. And when I say that, I mean in that I have put myself at a disadvantage because I have put off learning what I need to know to be able to take care of things in an emergency. And so some of the things that I'm going to focus on going forward are these things. We have met so many people along the way, and in couples especially, everybody gets their comfortable role and that's what they do. And so I just want to caution you to think about our situation right now, which could be way worse. And if you know that you are vulnerable in any of these positions, then I would suggest that you consider learning how to do them, because I certainly am. And while I'm learning those things, which I'm very scared about some of it, I will share with you so that you will know that I'm doing what I said I was going to do. So what have I been doing? Because I can't sit still, even sick. So I've been cleaning out all my drawers and all my cabinets and organizing like crazy. I'm predicting that in a few days I am going to feel like getting up and getting dressed. And maybe putting a little makeup on. Stay tuned for next week. I may have some organization stuff for you, maybe have something else. I don't know. I'm winging it at this point because my schedule is really thrown off, but I will come at you next week. Guys, please, please be safe out there. We love you guys. Stay healthy. Hug your friends and family. We love y'all. Live simply, dream big, and do life. Bye. All right, babe, how are you doing today?
After a week, a little better than I have been.
Yeah, sitting upright, that's always a good thing.